My wife told the divorce attorney, "He'll give me everything. He's too weak to fight back." I was listening on the other line, so I hired the most ruthless lawyer in the state and took her to court. I picked up the landline extension in my home office and heard my wife telling a divorce attorney that I was basically a pushover who was too weak to fight back and would give her everything she wanted in the divorce. She had no idea I was listening. Within 48 hours, I'd hired the most ruthless divorce attorney in Arizona and started building a case that would destroy her strategy completely. Hey Reddit, this is the story of how my wife mistook my kindness for weakness, and how that miscalculation cost her everything she thought she'd take from me. I'm Daniel, 35 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will make you question whether the person you're being nice to is actually just taking advantage of you. You know that moment when you realize the person you've been accommodating for years sees your generosity as exploitable weakness? When you discover that all your compromise and flexibility has been interpreted as an inability to stand up for yourself? That's where this story goes. But let me start from the beginning, because to understand how completely Lauren miscalculated who I was, you need to understand what our marriage had become, and how I'd enabled her to see me as weak. I met Lauren 7 years ago when I was 28 and she was 26. I was working as an accountant at a mid-size firm in Phoenix, making about $85,000 a year. Lauren was working in interior design at a boutique firm, making around $45,000. We met through mutual friends at a dinner party, connected over shared interests in travel and architecture, and started dating within a month. Lauren was beautiful, creative, ambitious. She had this vision for how she wanted her life to be: elegant, comfortable, aesthetically perfect. She talked about the house she'd design someday, the lifestyle she wanted to create, the family she'd raise in carefully curated environments. I found her dreams appealing. I was practical and analytical. She was creative and visionary. It felt like a good balance. We dated for 2 years. During that time, I got promoted twice. First to senior accountant at $95,000, then to accounting manager at $105,000. Lauren was excited about my career progression, but I noticed she became more focused on what my increased income meant for our future lifestyle than on my professional achievements themselves. "With your salary, we could afford a house in Arcadia," she'd say. Or, "Once you're making 6 figures, we should upgrade to a luxury car." It was always about what we could buy, what we could afford, what lifestyle we could achieve. Never about being proud of my hard work or my career growth, just about the purchasing power it provided. At 3 years of dating, we got engaged. I proposed with a $7,500 ring, more than I wanted to spend, but Lauren had dropped enough hints about the size and quality she expected that I knew anything less would disappoint her. She said yes immediately, of course, posted photos within seconds, started planning a wedding that would cost $35,000, which seemed excessive for our combined income of $150,000. But Lauren insisted it was investment in starting our marriage right. We got married when I was 30 and she was 28. The wedding was beautiful. Lauren's aesthetic vision fully realized, but I noticed that throughout the planning process, decisions were made based on what Lauren wanted with little consideration for my preferences or our budget constraints. When I'd suggest more affordable alternatives, she'd accuse me of not caring about our special day or being cheap. I'd back down to avoid conflict. Pattern: Lauren pushing for what she wanted, me suggesting alternatives, her accusing me of not caring or being cheap, me backing down, became the template for our entire marriage. After the wedding, Lauren wanted to buy a house immediately. "We can't start our family in an apartment. We need a proper home. Maybe we should save a larger down payment first. Get our finances more stable." "Daniel, everyone buys houses with small down payments. That's what loans are for. We need to stop renting and start building equity." We bought a 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood for $450,000, put down 5%, $22,500, which wiped out most of our savings. Our mortgage payment was $2,800 per month, plus property taxes and insurance, totaling about $3,400 monthly. On our combined income of $150,000, about $108,000 after taxes, that was a significant portion of our take-home pay. "The house is beautiful," I admitted, "but we're stretching ourselves pretty thin financially. We'll be fine. You're advancing in your career. I'm building my design business. Our income will grow." Except her income didn't grow. Lauren had been working full-time when we met, but after we bought the house, she cut back to part-time. "I need time to focus on designing our home, not just working for other people's houses." Her income dropped from $45,000 to about $30,000. Our combined income went from $150,000 to $135,000. But our expenses didn't decrease. They increased because Lauren was constantly buying furniture, decor, and design elements for our house. This couch was $4,000. We talked about spending $1,500. The $1,500 options were ugly and poorly made. This is an investment piece. Quality matters. We can't afford $4,000 couches right now. We can't afford to fill our home with cheap furniture either. Would you rather have a beautiful home or a house full of IKEA garbage? I'd sigh and accept it, because arguing felt exhausting and pointless. Lauren always had justifications for her spending, always framed my concerns as cheapness or lack of taste, always made me feel like the problem was my unwillingness to invest in our lifestyle, not her inability to live within our means. 1 year into marriage, Lauren got pregnant. We were both excited. Starting a family had always been part of the plan, but Lauren immediately started making decisions about how pregnancy and parenthood would work. I'm going to stop working once the baby comes. I can't do design work and be a mother. I need to focus on our child. Can we afford that? Losing $30,000 in income is significant. Plenty of families live on one income. You make $105,000. That's more than enough. After taxes, it's about $78,000 take home. Our house payment is $40,000 per year. That leaves $38,000 for everything else. Food, utilities, cars, insurance, baby expenses. That's tight. Then you need to work harder. Get promoted again. Increase your income. I'm not putting our child in daycare so I can work. That's non-negotiable. Again, I backed down. I didn't want to fight while she was pregnant. And maybe she was right. Maybe I needed to work harder, earn more, make it possible for her to stay home with our child. Our daughter Emma was born when I was 32 and Lauren was 30. Beautiful, perfect, everything we'd hoped for. Lauren took maternity leave, then decided not to return to work at all. I can't leave her, Daniel. She needs me. Daycare is terrible for attachment and development. I'm staying home. We discussed this. The plan was for you to return to work at least part-time. Plans change. Our daughter is more important than money. I couldn't argue with that framing. Of course, our daughter was more important than money, but the financial reality was stressful. I was now the sole earner for a family of 3, with a $450,000 mortgage in a house Lauren constantly wanted to improve and furnish. So I worked harder, put in longer hours, took on extra responsibilities, got promoted to senior accounting manager at age 33 with a salary of $110,000. The extra $5,000 helped but didn't solve our financial strain because Lauren's spending increased proportionally with my income. I want to remodel the kitchen. It's outdated and doesn't reflect our aesthetic. Lauren, a kitchen remodel will cost $30,000 and $40,000. We don't have that money. We can get a home equity loan. The house has appreciated. We have equity to borrow against. I don't want more debt. We're already stretched thin. You're always saying we can't afford things. When are we going to actually live the life we're working for? What's the point of your career advancement if we can't enjoy it? She wore me down. We took out a home equity loan for $35,000, remodeled the kitchen. It looked beautiful. Lauren had excellent taste, but now we had an additional $400 per month in loan payments on top of our mortgage. By the time Emma was 3, Lauren started talking about private preschool. The public options aren't good enough. I researched schools and found the perfect one. It's $18,000 per year. That's $1,500 per month. We can't afford that. Our daughter's education is the most important investment we can make. What kind of parents would we be if we cheap out on her education? There it was again, framing my financial concerns as being a bad parent or being cheap, making me feel guilty for trying to live within our means. I suggested compromises. What if she stays in the public preschool for 1 more year, and we save money for a better private elementary school? She needs the foundation now. Early education matters. I'm not sacrificing her development because you don't want to work a little harder. That phrase, you don't want to work a little harder, stung. I was already working 55 hours per week, coming home exhausted, missing time with Emma because I was at the office generating the income Lauren spent faster than I could earn it. But I enrolled Emma in the $18,000 a year private preschool because saying no meant being accused of not caring about our daughter's education. I started noticing patterns in our relationship that troubled me. Every financial discussion followed the same formula. 1. Lauren wanted something expensive. 2. I expressed concern about cost. 3. Lauren reframed my concern as cheapness, lack of care, poor priorities. 4. I felt guilty and backed down. 5. We spent money we didn't really have. 6. Lauren appreciated it briefly, then started wanting the next expensive thing. And critically, when I did push back harder, Lauren would get emotional. You don't love me enough to give me what I need, or you're financially controlling, or you married me knowing I had higher standards. Why are you trying to change me now? The emotional manipulation worked. I wasn't good at standing my ground in the face of tears and accusations, so I'd cave, work more hours, stress about money privately while Lauren spent publicly. Our sex life diminished. Lauren was often too tired or too stressed about the house projects, or too focused on Emma, but never too tired to browse design websites for hours or plan the next upgrade she wanted. My friends started noticing my stress. "Man, you look exhausted," my friend Marcus said at a guy's night out. "Everything okay?" "Just working a lot, trying to keep up with expenses." "How's Lauren?" "Still not working?" "She's focused on Emma." "That's important." "Sure, but Emma's in preschool full-time now, right?" "What does Lauren do all day?" "Good question. Emma was in preschool from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., 5 days a week. What did Lauren do during those 35 hours per week?" I started paying attention. When I'd come home, the house would be clean, but not spotless. Dinner wasn't usually made. Lauren would suggest takeout or cooking something simple. Laundry would be done but not folded. Emma's toys would be scattered around. "What did you do today?" I'd ask casually. "Busy day. Took Emma to school, went to the gym, had lunch with Michelle, picked up Emma, played with her, made snacks. You know how it is. Gym, 1-2 hours. Lunch with Michelle, 1-2 hours. Total time actually parenting Emma outside of school, 3 hours. That's 6 to 7 hours accounted for in a day that had 7 hours of child-free time. The other hours? Design blogs, Instagram, online shopping, TV, occasional freelance design consultations that brought in maybe $3,000 per year. Lauren had become a stay-at-home mom whose child was gone 35 hours per week and who spent her free time not on household management or income generation, but on personal leisure activities while I worked 55 hours per week to fund our lifestyle. But I didn't confront her about this, because past attempts to discuss Lauren's contributions had been met with rage. "I'm raising your child. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? How dare you question what I do all day? Parenting is a full-time job, except Emma was in school 35 hours per week, and Lauren had a housekeeper who came twice a week to deep clean, another $400-a-month expense Lauren insisted was necessary. 5 months ago, Lauren started talking about upgrading our house. We've outgrown this place. Emma needs her own play space. We need a home office for you. I want a proper design studio. We should look at houses in the $650,000 to $700,000 range. Lauren, we can barely afford this house. How would we afford a $700,000 house? You're making $110,000 now. In a few years, you'll be making $130,000, maybe $140,000 if you keep advancing. We need to think about our future lifestyle, not our current constraints. Our future lifestyle needs to be based on reality, not fantasy income projection. You're so negative about everything, so risk-averse. How are we supposed to build wealth if you won't make investments in our future?" The argument escalated. I finally said something I'd been thinking for months. "Lauren, I need you to go back to work, at least part-time. Emma's in school now. We need the additional income, and frankly, you have time to contribute financially." Her reaction was explosive. "You want me to abandon our daughter so I can... You want Emma to be a latchkey kid? You're a terrible father if you think our child's well-being is worth sacrificing for money." "That's not what I said." "That's exactly what you said. You want me to work instead of being available for Emma. What if she gets sick at school? What if she has a bad day and needs her mom? You want her to come home to an empty house? She's in school until 3 p.m. You could work 9-2 p.m. and still pick her up. That's 25 hours per week. At 20 to hour in design work, that's $500 per week, $2,000 per month. That would make such a difference. I'm not working for $20 per hour. I have a degree and experience. That's insulting. Then work for more. But we need additional income. I'm drowning here trying to fund a lifestyle I can't afford. Maybe if you were better at your career, you'd be making enough that I wouldn't need to work." That hurt. I was working 55 hours per week, had been promoted 3 times in 7 years, was doing everything I could to support our family. And it wasn't enough because Lauren's spending always exceeded my earning. I walked away from that fight feeling defeated and resentful. But I didn't leave, didn't demand change, just accepted that this was my life. Working constantly to fund a lifestyle Lauren wanted while she spent her days at the gym and lunch with friends and told me I wasn't working hard enough. 3 months ago, I started noticing Lauren was secretive with her phone, would angle it away from me when texting, would step out of the room to take calls. When I asked about it, she'd say it was just friends or design client consultations. I didn't think she was cheating. Lauren loved the lifestyle I provided too much to risk it, but something was off. 2 months ago, Lauren suggested we go to marriage counseling. "I think we need help communicating. We're fighting too much about money." I'd be happy to go to counseling. But Lauren, the money fights are because we're spending beyond our means. That's not a communication issue. That's a math issue. See? That's exactly the problem. You think everything is about money. But marriage is about partnership and supporting each other's dreams. We went to one counseling session. The therapist asked about our finances. I explained that I was the sole earner, working 55 hours per week, making $110,000, while Lauren stayed home despite Emma being in school full-time. That our expenses exceeded my income because Lauren wanted to maintain a lifestyle we couldn't afford. Lauren's version, I'm raising our daughter, which is a full-time job. Daniel is financially controlling and resents having to provide for his family. He wants me to work when I should be focused on our child. He doesn't value what I contribute to our home and family. The therapist tried to mediate, suggested that we create a household budget together, that Lauren consider part-time work since Emma was in school, that we discuss lifestyle expectations and compromise on spending. Lauren to return. That therapist was biased against stay-at-home moms. She doesn't understand that parenting isn't about hours spent. It's about being available. I'm not going back. So that ended marriage counseling after one session. Last month, Lauren started talking about taking Emma to visit her sister in San Diego for a week. We need a break. This trip. You can have some time to yourself. That sounds expensive. Flights, hotels, activities? My sister offered to host us. We just need flights. And I found a great deal. Only $400 round trip for both of us. Okay, that's reasonable. They went to San Diego for a week. I worked that week, came home to an empty house, felt sad and lonely but also relieved to not be stressed about money for a few days. When Lauren returned, she seemed different. Less interested in talking about her trip, would text constantly with people and smile at her, phone in ways she didn't smile at me anymore. How was San Diego? Great. Emma loved the beach. We had fun. What did you guys do? Beach, zoo, shopping, normal stuff. She was evasive, disconnected, and still constantly on her phone. 2 weeks ago, I came home from work early. I'd had a morning full of meetings and finished up some paperwork quickly, so I left the office at 4 p.m. instead of my usual 6 p.m. I walked into our house at 4:15 p.m., called out, "I'm home," but got no response. Emma was still at preschool. I'd pick her up at 5 p.m. like usual. Lauren's car was in the driveway, so she was home. I walked upstairs toward our bedroom to change into comfortable clothes. As I got closer, I heard Lauren's voice. She was on the phone in our bedroom. The door was slightly open. "So when do you want to schedule the initial consultation?" she was saying. I paused. Who was she scheduling a consultation with? "Next Wednesday works for me," Lauren continued. "And you said the retainer is $5,000? Okay, I can do that. I'll bring a check." My stomach dropped. $5,000 retainer? That sounded like a lawyer. I quietly walked to my home office at the end of the hall. We still had a landline, old-fashioned, but we'd kept it because it came with our internet bundle. The landline had multiple extensions throughout the house, including one in my office and one in our bedroom. I carefully, silently picked up the extension in my office, pressed mute so they wouldn't hear the line click, and listened. A woman's voice I didn't recognize. Perfect. So to summarize what we've discussed, you're seeking a divorce from your husband. You've been married 8 years, have one child aged 5, and you want primary custody, the family home, and maximum child support and alimony. Is that correct? Lauren's voice. Yes, that's correct. My heart stopped. Divorce. Lauren was consulting a divorce attorney. The attorney continued, "Based on what you've told me, you've been the primary caregiver while your husband worked. Arizona courts typically favor the primary caregiver parent for custody. Since you haven't worked full-time in several years, you'd likely qualify for both child support and spousal support. Your husband makes $110,000, correct? Yes? And you make approximately $30,000, $35,000 per year? Well, I'm not working right now. I made that before, but I stopped to focus on our daughter. So currently, 0 income. Even better for your case. The larger the income disparity, the more support you can claim. You'd likely receive around $1,500, $1,800 per month in child support for one child, plus $2,500 per month in spousal support for several years. That sounds good. And the house? Since you've been the primary caregiver and your daughter's stability is priority, you'd likely be awarded the family home. Your husband would have to either sign over his half or you'd buy him out. But given your income situation, the court would probably order him to sign it over and he'd get compensated through other asset division. Perfect. Now, I need to be honest with you, Mrs. Harrison. These cases can get contentious. Some spouses fight back hard. They hire aggressive attorneys. They dispute custody claims. They drag things out. Are you prepared for that possibility? Lauren laughed. Literally laughed. Oh, my husband won't fight. Trust me. He's basically a pushover. Nice guy, but weak. He'll give me whatever I want just to avoid conflict. That's how our entire marriage has worked. I push for what I want, he objects initially. Then he caves. Every single time. He's too non-confrontational to actually fight me on anything. My hand gripped the phone so hard, my knuckles turned white. The attorney, you seem confident about that. Lauren, I am. Look, I know my husband. He doesn't have it in him to be aggressive or fight dirty. He'll be upset about the divorce, but he won't contest anything. He'll just want it over with so he can avoid conflict. That's who he is. He'd rather lose than fight. Makes this whole process much easier. Well, that certainly simplifies things if he doesn't contest. But I'd still recommend you prepare mentally for the possibility that he won't fight, Lauren interrupted. Trust me, I've got him figured out completely. He's too weak to do anything but agree to my terms. We'll walk through this divorce easily. I'll get everything I'm asking for, and he'll just accept it because that's what he does. He's predictable, weak, too nice for his own good. My vision blurred, not from tears, from rage, pure, cold rage. The attorney, all right, well, if you're certain, let's schedule that consultation for next Wednesday. Bring any financial documents you have, tax returns, bank statements, mortgage information, credit card statements. The more documentation, the stronger your case. Will do. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help with this. Of course. I'll see you next Wednesday. They ended the call. I sat in my office, still holding the muted phone, listening to the dial tone, my mind racing through everything I'd just heard. Lauren was planning to divorce me. She wanted the house, primary custody, maximum support payments. She thought I was weak and wouldn't fight back. She'd called me a pushover, predictable, too nice for my own good. She was confident I'd just roll over and give her everything she wanted, because that's what I'd done our entire marriage. Every time she wanted something expensive, I'd eventually given in. Every time she pushed back against my concerns, I'd eventually backed down. Every time she accused me of being cheap or controlling or not supportive, I'd felt guilty and accommodated her demands. And she'd interpreted all of that generosity, all of that compromise, all of that kindness as weakness, as an exploitable character trait, as evidence that I was too weak to stand up for myself. I sat in that office for 30 minutes, phone still in hand, as everything clicked into place. The secretive phone calls weren't about an affair. They were about divorce planning. The San Diego trip wasn't just visiting her sister, it was consulting with her sister about leaving me. The suggestion of marriage counseling wasn't about fixing our marriage. It was about establishing documentation that she'd tried before divorcing me. The increasing distance and disconnection wasn't about stress. It was about emotionally detaching before legally detaching. Lauren had been planning this for months, and she was doing it with complete confidence that I wouldn't fight back, that I'd just accept losing my house, losing daily access to my daughter, and paying her $3,500 to her $4,000 per month in support while she continued to not work, and I continued to struggle financially. She thought I was weak. She thought I was predictable. She thought I'd just roll over and let her take everything. She was about to learn exactly how wrong she was. I hung up the phone quietly and sat in my office, mind racing. Lauren thought I was weak, thought I wouldn't fight back, thought she could take everything because I'd always caved before. She was counting on me being predictable, being too nice, being too conflict-averse to stand up for myself. But here's what Lauren didn't understand. Choosing not to fight over a $4,000 couch or a kitchen remodel wasn't the same as being unable to fight. Compromising on lifestyle choices wasn't the same as accepting the destruction of my life. Being generous wasn't the same as being weak. Lauren had mistaken strategic accommodation for fundamental weakness, and that miscalculation was about to cost her everything. I opened my laptop and started taking notes. Everything I'd just heard, word for word, as much as I could remember. Then I started researching. Arizona is a one-party consent state for recording conversations, meaning if I'm part of a conversation or listening on an extension in my own home, I can legally record it. I'd just listened to Lauren planning my financial destruction with her attorney, and in Arizona, that recording would be admissible in court. Next search, divorce attorneys in Phoenix. But not just any divorce attorneys. I needed someone aggressive, someone who didn't negotiate softly or seek compromise, someone who would fight as hard as Lauren thought I wouldn't. One name kept appearing, Margaret Caldwell, known as the Destroyer in Phoenix legal circles, former prosecutor turned family law attorney, reputation for absolutely eviscerating spouses who tried to manipulate the system, win rate above 85%. Client reviews described her as ruthless, brilliant, and terrifying to opposing counsel. Her retainer? $15,000, 3 times what Lauren's attorney charged, but worth every penny if she was as good as her reputation suggested. I called her office first thing the next morning. I need to schedule a consultation with Margaret. Caldwell, it's urgent. Ms. Caldwell is booked out several weeks. Tell her I have recordings of my wife planning to exploit my perceived weakness in a divorce. Tell her I'm willing to pay double her retainer for an emergency consultation. Today, if possible. Silence. Then, hold please. 2 minutes later, Ms. Caldwell can see you at 4 p.m. today. Bring any documentation you have. I spent the rest of the day gathering documentation. I worked from home, which meant Lauren didn't know I wasn't at the office. While she was out at the gym and having lunch with friends, I systematically compiled evidence. Financial records for the past 8 years. Every credit card statement showing Lauren's spending. Bank statements showing the drain on our accounts. The home equity loan documents. Emma's preschool tuition receipts. Every receipt I could find for Lauren's discretionary purchases. Furniture, clothes, home improvements, lunches, spa days. I created a spreadsheet. Income versus expenses over 8 years. My income in one column. Lauren's income, or lack thereof, in another. Our expenses categorized by necessity versus luxury. The numbers were damning. In 8 years of marriage, I'd earned $820,000. Lauren had earned $185,000 in the first 3 years, then essentially nothing for the last 5. We'd spent $9,000 to $10,000. Where had the deficit come from? Credit cards, home equity loans, depleted savings. We were $90,000 in debt despite me earning a good salary because Lauren's spending always exceeded our means. Next, I documented parenting. I went through my calendar, Emma's school records, my text messages with Lauren, created another spreadsheet showing actual parenting time. Emma was in preschool 8 a.m., 3 p.m. 5 days per week. That's 35 hours. I typically got home at 6 p.m., did dinner and bedtime routine with Emma from 6 p.m., 8 p.m. That's 2 hours per weekday, 10 hours per week. Weekends, I spent Saturday and Sunday actively parenting, at least 8 hours each day, 16 hours total. My weekly parenting time when Emma wasn't in school, 26 hours. Lauren's parenting time when Emma wasn't in school, she did morning routine, 7 to 8 a.m., after school time, 3 to 6 p.m., and weekends. That's 1 hour in morning, 3 hours after school, totaling 20 hours on weekdays. Weekends, she was present, but often on her phone or doing her own activities while I actively engaged with Emma. Her engaged parenting time on weekends, maybe 8 hours total. So Lauren, 28 hours per week of actual parenting. Me, 26 hours per week, nearly equal. But Lauren was claiming to be the primary caregiver because she didn't work, despite Emma being in school full-time and Lauren spending her free time at the gym, having lunch with friends, or browsing design websites. I compiled text messages between Lauren and me, ones where I'd ask, "What did you do today?" and she'd respond with activities that didn't include Emma or household management, ones where I'd suggest she work part-time and she'd accuse me of not valuing her parenting, ones where I'd express financial concerns and she'd say I needed to work harder or make more money. By 3 p.m., I had 3 binders of documentation: financial, parenting, communications, everything organized, labeled, indexed. At 4 p.m., I walked into Margaret Caldwell's office. She was mid-50s, impeccably dressed, sharp eyes that seemed to evaluate and categorize me instantly. "Mr. Harrison, you said you have recordings of your wife planning to exploit your perceived weakness." "I do." I pulled out my phone, played the recording I'd made of myself re-listening to the call on speaker and recording it on my phone. Her voice came through clearly. "He's basically a pushover. Nice guy, but weak. He'll give me whatever I want just to avoid conflict. He's too non-confrontational to actually fight me on anything. I've got him figured out completely. He's too weak to do anything but agree to my terms. He's predictable, weak, too nice for his own good." Margaret's expression didn't change, but I saw something flash in her eyes. Anger? Satisfaction? Both? Arizona is one-party consent. You were on an extension in your own home. This is admissible. When did you record this? Yesterday. She's consulting with an attorney named, I checked my notes, Patricia Henderson. They're meeting next Wednesday. Patricia Henderson. I know her. She's competent but not aggressive. She takes cases where she thinks she'll win easily, which tells me your wife has convinced her this will be an easy case because you won't fight. That's exactly what Lauren thinks. And will you fight? I will destroy her case completely. I want primary custody of my daughter. I want to keep my house. I want to pay the minimum legally required support. And I want Lauren to understand that mistaking kindness for weakness was the biggest miscalculation of her life. Margaret smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. "Show me your documentation." I spent 2 hours walking Margaret through everything: the finances, the parenting time analysis, the text messages, the pattern of Lauren's spending and manipulation, her threat to use my non-confrontational nature against me. Margaret made notes, asked questions, nodded occasionally. "Here's what we're going to do," she finally said. "You're not going to confront your wife about the divorce. You're not going to let her know you know. We're going to let her serve you with papers, and then we're going to respond so aggressively it'll make her head spin. What's the strategy? She wants primary custody? We're going to prove she's not the primary caregiver. You are. She wants the house? We're going to argue that since you've paid for 95% of it and she's underemployed by choice, she should be the one to lead. She wants maximum support? We're going to demonstrate that she's capable of earning $40,000, $45,000 per year and has chosen not to work. which should reduce spousal support significantly. And we're going to use this recording to show that she's attempting to manipulate the system by exploiting what she perceives as your weakness. Will that work? If we execute perfectly? Yes. Arizona courts don't like manipulation. They don't like parents who are voluntarily underemployed while demanding maximum support. They don't like strategic exploitation of the other spouse's good nature. And judges especially don't like hearing recordings where one party laughs about how they're going to take advantage of the other. What do I need to do? Keep documenting everything. Keep being the excellent father you've been. Don't change your behavior. We want her confident that you'll roll over. When she serves you, act upset but not aggressive. Then let me handle everything else. And Mr. Harrison, my retainer is $15,000. This case will probably cost you $25,000, $30,000 total. Can you afford that? I thought about the $48,500 I'd spent on a wedding to Vanessa that never happened because I'd overheard her truth. I thought about the years I'd spent accommodating Lauren's demands. I thought about my daughter and being reduced to every other weekend visitation while paying $4,000 per month to fund Lauren's non-working lifestyle. I can afford it, and it'll be the best money I've ever spent. Good. Then let's destroy her case. I wrote Margaret a check for $15,000, signed the retainer agreement, walked out of her office feeling more clear-headed than I'd felt in years. For the next week, I played the perfect oblivious husband, came home from work, played with Emma, made small talk with Lauren, pretended everything was normal. Meanwhile, I was documenting everything in detailed logs that Margaret had instructed me to keep. Every morning, I noted what time Lauren got up, when she took Emma to school, where she went afterward. Every evening, I noted what time she got home, whether she'd started dinner, how much time she spent actively engaged with Emma versus on her phone. The picture that emerged was damning. Lauren's typical day: 7 a.m. Wake up, get Emma ready for school. 8 drop Emma at school. 9 a.m. 11 a.m. Gym. 11 a.m. 1 p.m. Lunch with friends or browsing design websites at home. 1 p.m. 3 p.m. Errands, shopping, or TV. 3 p.m. Pick up Emma from school. 3 p.m. 6 p.m. Emma plays alone or watches TV while Lauren is on her phone. 6 p.m. I arrive home and take over Emma's care. Lauren wasn't lazy, exactly. But she also wasn't the engaged, hands-on primary caregiver she claimed to be. She was a woman whose child was in school full-time and who spent her free time on personal leisure activities. Wednesday came, the day of Lauren's consultation with her attorney. She told me she was meeting a friend for lunch. I watched her leave in her car, briefcase in hand, knowing exactly where she was going. 2 hours later, she returned, home, looking satisfied, confident, like everything was going according to plan. That evening, she was unusually cheerful, made dinner without me having to ask, was affectionate with Emma, smiled at me in a way that seemed almost pitying. She thought she had everything figured out, thought within a few weeks she'd serve me with papers and I'd crumble and give her everything she wanted. She had no idea I'd already hired the most aggressive divorce attorney in Arizona and had been building a counter case for a week. Friday morning, 2 weeks after I'd overheard Lauren's call, a process server came to my office. Daniel Harrison? Yes? You've been served. He handed me an envelope and left. I opened it. Divorce petition from Lauren Michelle Harrison. She was filing for divorce, seeking primary custody of Emma, requesting I vacate the family home, requesting child support of $1,100 per month and spousal support of $500 per month. I texted Margaret, just got served. Her response, perfect. Don't contact Lauren except through me from now on. I'll file our response Monday. Let the games begin. That weekend was surreal. Lauren expected me to be devastated. I acted appropriately upset, but not angry. Didn't yell, didn't accuse, just seemed sad and resigned. I can't believe you're doing this, I said quietly. I'm not happy, Daniel. Haven't been for a long time. We want different things. This is best for everyone. Where will I live? You'll find an apartment. You'll see Emma every other weekend. We'll make it work. She was so confident, so certain I'd just accept her terms, so convinced I was too weak to fight. Monday morning, Margaret filed our response. And it wasn't just a response, it was a nuclear counterstrike. We contested everything, filed for primary custody ourselves, citing Lauren's voluntary underemployment and my equal parenting time. Requested that Lauren vacate the family home since I'd paid 95% of the mortgage and could continue to afford it while she couldn't. Requested that Lauren pay me $500 per month in child support once we established she was underemployed by choice. Requested minimal spousal support for the shortest duration possible given that Lauren had earning capacity of $40,000, $45,000 and had chosen not to work. And we attached exhibits. The financial records showing spending patterns, the parenting time analysis, the text messages showing Lauren's manipulation, and the recording, fully transcribed and authenticated, of Lauren telling her attorney that I was weak, predictable, and too nice to fight back. Lauren's attorney, Patricia Henderson, received our response Tuesday afternoon. By Tuesday evening, Lauren called me, hysterical. "What the fuck did you do? You hired Margaret Caldwell? Margaret Caldwell? Do you know how much she costs? About $15,000 for the retainer, yes. And you're fighting me on everything? Custody? The house? Support? This isn't you. You don't fight. What happened? What happened is I heard you talking to your attorney. I picked up the extension. I heard you call me weak and predictable. Heard you say I'd give you whatever you wanted because I'm too nice to fight back. And I realized that every time I've compromised with you, every time I've accommodated your demands, you've interpreted it as weakness rather than kindness." Silence. Then, you listened to my call? On an extension in my own house. Completely legal in Arizona. And yes, I recorded it. And yes, Margaret is submitting it as evidence of your attempt to manipulate me in the court. You can't do this. I can, and I am. You want to fight, Lauren? You've got one. And you're about to learn that I'm not nearly as weak as you thought I was. I hung up, blocked her number. All future communication would go through Margaret. Lauren immediately called Margaret. Margaret's assistant told her that all communication must be in writing. Lauren sent frantic emails. Margaret responded with formal legal language that essentially said, "See you in court." The preliminary hearing was 3 weeks later. Lauren showed up with Patricia Henderson, who looked concerned. I showed up with Margaret, who looked ready for war. The judge reviewed both petitions, looked at Lauren, looked at me. "Mrs. Harrison, you're seeking primary custody and maximum support, yet your financial disclosure shows you've earned less than $5,000 in the past 3 years. Can you explain your employment situation?" Lauren, coached by her attorney, "Your Honor, I've been focused on raising our daughter. Being a mother is a full-time job, and I felt it was important to be available for Emma rather than working." "I see. And Emma is how old?" 5 years old, Your Honor. "And she attends preschool?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Full-time?" Hesitation. "Yes, Your Honor." "So from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., 5 days per week, Emma is in school. What do you do during those hours?" I manage the household, Your Honor. Shopping, cleaning, errands, planning. Do you employ a housekeeper?" Lauren glanced at Patricia, who nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, twice per week. So the household cleaning is largely handled by a professional you employ. What else occupies those 35 hours per week while Emma is in school?" Lauren was floundering. "It's not just about hours, Your Honor. It's about being available, about being the primary emotional caregiver, about—" "Mr. Harrison," the judge turned to me. "You work full-time?" "Yes, Your Honor, 55 hours per week." "And what's your parenting involvement?" Margaret handed me a document. "Your Honor, we've submitted a detailed analysis of parenting time. Mr. Harrison handles all morning and evening routines on weekdays, totaling approximately 2-3 hours per day. On weekends, he provides the majority of hands-on parenting. His weekly engaged parenting time is approximately 26 hours. Mrs. Harrison's, by her own admission and per the documentation, is approximately 28 hours, only marginally more despite not working." The judge looked at Lauren. "So despite being home full-time, your actual engaged parenting is only 2 hours per week, more than your husband who works 55 hours per week?" Patricia jumped in. "Your Honor, quantifying parenting by hours doesn't account for—" "I understand nuance, counselor, but when a mother claims to be the primary caregiver while the child is in school 35 hours per week, and the father is providing nearly equal parenting time despite working full-time, I question the basis for primary custody." Then the judge addressed the recording. "I've reviewed Exhibit J, the transcribed recording of Mrs. Harrison's conversation with her previous—" "Mrs. Harrison, did you tell your attorney that your husband was basically a pushover who was too weak to fight back?" Lauren's face flushed. I was just venting, Your Honor. I didn't mean—" "Did you tell your attorney that you'd figured out your husband and that he was predictable and would give you whatever you wanted?" I was frustrated. It wasn't— "Did you tell your attorney that you were confident you'd walk through this divorce easily and get everything you asked for because your husband was too nice for his own good?" Silence. "Mrs. Harrison, this court does not look favorably on attempts to exploit a spouse's good nature. Your own words suggest you filed for divorce expecting to manipulate Mr. Harrison's non-confrontational personality into giving you primary custody, the family home, and maximum support, despite being voluntarily underemployed and providing only marginally more parenting time than he does. Your Honor, I'm ordering temporary 50-50 custody. Mr. Harrison will retain residence in the family home for now. We'll revisit permanent arrangements at trial. Mrs. Harrison, you're to find temporary housing. I'm also ordering you to seek employment. You have a college degree and work experience in interior design. There's no reason you can't contribute to your own support." Lauren looked like she'd been slapped. "Your Honor, I need time to—" "You have 30 days to find employment. We'll reconvene in 3 months for trial. Use that time to demonstrate to this court that you're a responsible parent who contributes financially to her child's well-being rather than relying entirely on her ex-spouse. The gavel came down, temporary orders established. Lauren had lost every single thing she'd asked for in the preliminary hearing. She turned to me in the hallway, furious. "You did this. You humiliated me in front of a judge. No, Lauren, you did this. You called me weak. You planned to exploit my good nature. You filed for divorce thinking I'd just give you everything. You humiliated yourself." Over the next 3 months, Lauren scrambled. She moved into a small apartment, had to ask her parents for help with deposit and rent. She got a job at a design firm, part-time at first, then full-time, make $42,000. She had Emma 50% of the time, alternating weeks, and she hated every minute of it. Hated working, hated the small apartment after our nice house, hated that she couldn't spend money freely anymore, hated that I wasn't caving to her demands. Patricia Henderson tried to negotiate, offered compromises, but Margaret held firm. We were going to trial and we were going to win. The trial was 6 months after I'd overheard Lauren's initial call to her attorney. We presented everything. The financial records showing Lauren's excessive spending and refusal to work. The parenting analysis showing nearly equal time. The text messages showing her manipulation. And the recording, played in open court, of Lauren calling me weak and predictable. The judge listened to everything, then delivered his ruling. I've reviewed the evidence presented by both parties. This is a case where one spouse believed they could exploit the other's cooperative nature in divorce proceedings. Mrs. Harrison explicitly stated she expected Mr. Harrison to give her everything she wanted because he was too weak to fight back. That miscalculation led to this contentious divorce. I'm awarding primary custody to Mr. Harrison, 60-40 split with Mrs. Harrison receiving every other weekend and one weeknight. Given Mrs. Harrison's voluntary underemployment during the marriage and Mr. Harrison's consistent parenting involvement, this arrangement better serves the child's interests. The family home will remain with Mr. Harrison. He will pay Mrs. Harrison $35,000 for her equity share, to be paid over 3 years. Mrs. Harrison is now employed full-time, making $42,000. Mr. Harrison makes $110,000. Given the relatively modest income disparity and Mrs. Harrison's earning capacity that she chose not to exercise during the marriage, I'm awarding spousal support of $800 per month for 3 years only. Child support. Based on the custody split and respective incomes, Mrs. Harrison will pay Mr. Harrison $400 per month in child support. Lauren's face went white. She'd expected to receive $4,000 per month. Instead, she was paying $400 and receiving $800, a net gain of only $400 per month while living in a small apartment and working full-time. Margaret leaned over to me. We won. Completely. Lauren tried to appeal. The appeals court upheld everything. She was stuck with the judgment. 1 year after the divorce, my life had stabilized. Emma lived with me during the week. Went to her mom's every other weekend. I'd reduced my work hours to 45 per week since I no longer needed to fund Lauren's spending. Emma and I were thriving. Father-daughter cooking nights, weekend hikes, bedtime stories, genuine quality time. Lauren was struggling, working full-time at a job she'd spent years avoiding, living in a small apartment she could barely afford even with the $800 spousal support, seeing Emma only 40% of the time. Her social life had collapsed. Her friends from the gym and lunch crowd had drifted away when she couldn't afford to meet them anymore. 2 years after the divorce, I started dating Claire, a fellow parent from Emma's school. She was a nurse, financially independent, genuinely kind. When I told her about Lauren, she said she thought kindness was weakness. That's the mistake people make, assuming that someone who compromises wants to, rather than choosing to for the relationship. 3 years after the divorce, Lauren's spousal support ended. She was now supporting herself entirely on $42,000 while paying me $400 a month in child support. She'd asked for modifications twice, denied both times. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was dating but struggling. Men would be interested initially, then put off by her bitterness and complaints about her ex-husband who destroyed her life. 5 years after overhearing that phone call, I'm 40. Emma is 10. We have a great relationship. I'm engaged to Claire. We've built a life based on actual partnership, mutual respect, and honest communication. My income has grown to $125,000. I paid off all the debt Lauren had accumulated. I refinished Emma's room in her favorite colors. Life is peaceful and happy. Lauren, now 38, is still working full-time in design, still in her small apartment, still seeing Emma only 40% of the time, still single. According to mutual friends, she tells people that I changed during the divorce, that the man she married was kind and accommodating, but I became aggressive and vindictive. But that's not what happened. I didn't change. Lauren just finally saw the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. For 8 years, I'd accommodated her demands because I loved her and wanted her to be happy. I'd compromised on spending, on lifestyle, on her working, because I valued our relationship more than being right. But when she decided to divorce me and explicitly stated she expected to exploit my weakness, that's when accommodation ended and self-preservation began. Lauren had mistaken strategic kindness. She thought that because I'd always chosen peace over conflict, I was incapable of fighting when it truly mattered. She learned the hard way that there's a massive difference between choosing not to fight over a couch and being unable to fight for your child, your home, and your dignity. 7 years after that conversation, I occasionally wonder if Lauren regrets calling me weak, if she understands that her words on that phone call, words she never meant for me to hear, destroyed the comfortable life she'd been planning to maintain after divorce. She'd expected to take my house, take my daughter, take $4,000 a month in support, and continue living the non-working lifestyle I'd funded. Instead, she works full-time, lives modestly, sees Emma less than I do, pays me support, and deals with the consequences of underestimating. The man she called predictable. The final irony? Lauren had been right about one thing. I was predictable, just not in the way she thought. She predicted I'd be too weak to fight, too nice to defend myself, too accommodating to hire a ruthless attorney and destroy her case. But what I was actually predictable about was this. When someone I loved was in trouble, I'd help them. When someone was struggling, I'd accommodate. When someone made mistakes, I'd forgive. What Lauren didn't predict, what she completely failed to understand, was that those principles only applied to people who valued me. Once she revealed that she saw me as weak and exploitable, once she announced her plan to manipulate my good nature for her financial gain, she forfeited every bit of accommodation and kindness I'd ever shown her. And that's the lesson Lauren learned too late. Never mistake someone's kindness for weakness, because the moment you try to exploit it, you discover that the person you thought was too weak to fight back is actually just someone who hadn't yet decided you were worth fighting against.